What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and it's cold outside, and I'm sore from working out. Anyway, one of the big questions a lot of you guys have been asking, at least my thoughts on it anyway, and one of the big theories going on out there is that Mephisto is going to appear in Spider-Man No Way Home. And a lot of people are using the scene from the trailer where Doctor Strange and Spider-Man are at the Statue of Liberty, and that in the original trailer, Doctor Strange said, "I can't stop them." And then in the newer trailer, Doctor Strange says, "I can't stop him." So basically referring to a guy as opposed to a group of people. And the people are saying that basically looks like the arrival of Mephisto. And people are using the idea of the history between Mephisto and Spider-Man as a way to indicate that that's actually the case. I mean, I get that you guys want to see Mephisto in the MCU. That's not how Mephisto would appear. Mephisto would not show up in the MCU by coming through a giant portal that opened over the Statue of Liberty and just being like, "Hello everybody on Earth, I'm Mephisto, and you're all fucked." That's not what Mephisto would do. Instead, Mephisto would visit Peter Parker at his most vulnerable, assuming Peter was the person that Mephisto was after, which would likely be the case given the history between like Spider-Man One More Day and like what looks to be the plot of Spider-Man No Way Home. So again, you know, it's a little interesting there insofar as Mephisto being a possibility. At the end of the day though, I just don't see it happening. Will Mephisto ever appear in the MCU? I don't know. Maybe. I imagine if the Marvel Cinematic Universe did not actually have any plans for Mephisto to appear, they probably do now, if for no other reason than just the fact that like, we all want to see him. So they're probably trying to find some way to work him in. If he would appear, I could see it being in Doctor Strange 2, maybe some kind of a cameo or something along those lines. Having said that, what do I think is going on in that scene in Spider-Man No Way Home? I think it's Kang the Conqueror. More so than that, I think it's Kang's entire invading force. So one of the things to keep in mind when it comes to Kang the Conqueror, based on what we saw in Loki and all that kind of stuff, is Kang originates on Earth. It's different Earths and different alternate realities, but it's always Earth, and it's always from the future of that Earth. In the comics, it's something like the 30th century or something along those lines, maybe the 31st. But in the Loki series, all fingers point to the idea that at a future point in time, Kang the Conqueror will appear. Now, in Marvel Comics, there's never really been an instance where Kang has wiped out an entire universe. There have been instances when he's changed the history of universes, and in fact, that's actually going on in the comics right now. In the Kang the Conqueror limited series, he's actually changing his own history. So we can kind of see maybe that playing out in some way in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I think that Kang showing up here on Earth makes the most logical sense. And the reason why is because, one, Earth is home to some of the most powerful beings in the entirety of Marvel Comics and seemingly in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The only exceptions to that I can really think of are people like maybe Thanos or like the Celestials or Carol Danvers, but outside of the Celestials and possibly whatever Eternals may exist out there based on, you know, our indication from Star Fox and Pip the Troll at the end of the Eternals film, Earth still seems to have some of the heaviest hitters. Now, if the Marvel Cinematic Universe grabs Marvel Comics and reels it over, well, then that's just definitively the case, right? Earth has reality warpers, right? We've got universe-wide telepaths. We've got telekinetics that can move planets. Earth has all kinds of crazy, powerful beings. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, power doesn't really exist on that scale. I think it might at a future point in time, but I think for right now, Earth is still a pretty powerful place. And if Kang the Conqueror really does exist or hail from Earth, then Earth would be the first place to conquer because he could basically ensure his own existence. More so than that, it would be a kind of maximum security storyline type situation. For those of you guys who are unfamiliar with that, maximum security was a story that was written in Marvel Comics where basically Earth was turned into a prison planet and Ronan the Accuser was the warden at that point in time. Ron is dead, and I doubt he would be the warden in this particular situation, but basically Earth was turned into a prison planet. And the reason why is because the Kree and the Skrull, of course, as most of you guys know, either from comics or from the movies or doing your own reading, have been waging war against each other for millions of years. And because of how powerful people on Earth were, that if a race were able to subjugate Earth and force the citizens of Earth to work in their service, while they may or may not be able to conquer the universe depending on who they have working for them, they could certainly put a dent in conquering the various races and empires that exist out there. The Badoon, the Shi'ar, the Kree, or the Skrulls, any number of those guys. And so having Kang the Conqueror show up on Earth and then immediately conquer it and then basically turn it into a planet that he rules with absolute authority would possibly allow him to subjugate the Earth's populace, maybe the Avengers or whoever, and potentially even spread outward from there. Now, say that's actually the case. And Doctor Strange and Spider-Man are standing there and the portal's opening, and Kang the Conqueror's entire invasion fleet, so not just him, but like ships are all just descending down with futuristic technology that humanity in the 21st century is woefully ill-equipped to stand against. There'd really be nothing Doctor Strange and Spider-Man could do. Doctor Strange is powerful, but it doesn't really look like there'd be a whole lot he could do in that situation. And so if that's the case, say that, for example, they get teleported away, right? They get removed from that situation, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. Now, we can interpret that a couple different ways. And this is where I want to pitch this idea to you because I want to see how you all feel about this, right? Say, for example, the portal's opening up, Kang's entire invading fleet is coming in, and say that Doctor Strange and Peter are like, okay, we have to do something about this, and then they can't. And the reason why they can't is because Loki teleports in behind him and is like, there's nothing you can do here. I mean, if you fight, you will die. I've seen it happen across all these universes where the Avengers across countless worlds try to defeat Kang and they all fall to the power of Kang the Conqueror. So Loki whisks them away, right? Loki takes them away because as we know from the conclusion of Loki, when he was there and he saw Kang the Conqueror replace himself with the statue of the timekeepers and so on and so forth, that Kang is very nefarious, he's a villain, that Loki is likely trying to do what he can to save what he can, possibly even work directly against Kang himself to stop him from coming to power, or at least consolidate some kind of a military or some kind of a force that can oppose Kang. It would make perfect sense that his first thought would be the people of my home universe, right? The people back in my world. Thor's out in space. We know that from the ending of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Maybe Loki knows, maybe Loki doesn't. But regardless, if Loki shows up at like the 11th hour, at that moment, right, when Kang is arriving and he's like, oh my God, I'm too late. There's nothing I can do here. But then he sees Doctor Strange and Peter, then he's like, whatever, that's better than nothing. So he snatches them up, takes them away, and then from there, it splits off into their respective stories, right? That Loki basically tells Doctor Strange and Peter Parker, here's everything that's going on. I'm trying to solve it from my end. Here's what I'm doing. You got to try to solve it for your end. You go do your own thing. And that goes into the plot of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. And then you have the story of Loki that continues on in Loki season 2 and then concludes in Ant-Man 3 Quantumania. Not gonna lie to you guys, I'd be disappointed if that was the case, right? I said that in a podcast that I was in recently with Josh over at Denim Nerds, and I was like, there's no way that they are going to end the whole Kang saga in Ant-Man 3. Like, hey everybody, Kang the Conqueror is invading Earth, and he's like a multiversal threat, and he wants to just conquer all of reality, but the only one that can stop him is a guy who burgles. Like, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It seems goofy. So it would have to go into like some kind of like a new Avengers film or some kind of coming together film or something along those lines, but certainly not Ant-Man 3 Quantumania. It just doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess, but I mean, it's Avengers, man, like do it in an Avengers movie, right? Just give it that, where everybody comes together and everything pops off. But let me know what you guys think about that, right? I think that's a very strong possibility because I was talking to my social media guy, Tony, on the way up here to Fort Collins, and he made a really good point. He was like, they need to get to work on this whole Kang the Conqueror thing, man, because people want to see it, right? He gets basically teased at the end of Loki when He Who Remains, Immortus, dies, and he's like, okay, well, you guys killed me. Now you guys are really screwed because now you guys are going to have to deal with Kang. Good luck. And just kind of goes forward from there. So it's like, okay, like give, because we haven't seen hide nor hair of anything to do with Kang the Conqueror ever since. And so it's like, okay, give us something. And I think a great way to bring Kang in is at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, when what I imagine to be is going to be a lot of pain and suffering, because a lot of the guys are pointing to the idea that like maybe MJ or Aunt May might die. And then like at the end of all that stuff, then it's like, no, Peter Parker, the struggle is just starting. Like this like loss, pain, and suffering, no, it's just beginning. Like, you thought Thanos was bad. He's got nothing on Kang the Conqueror. I think that would be a great concept. I think it'd be a great idea. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. I'm really, really curious. Do you guys think this plot, or this theme would work, right? You basically start off with Kang essentially launching an invasion against Earth in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home. Loki appears, he tells Doctor Strange and Peter, there's nothing you can do here. If you stay, you will die. You have to come with me. And so in effect, they have to leave everybody behind, right? The Avengers, as we know them now, are left behind. Wanda is presumably either out in the universe or in the multiverse herself, so she's not directly affected by it. Thor is in space, so that explains why Thor wouldn't know what was going on Earth and why he wouldn't really be part and parcel to it. So that's his character story arc, when it's just like, oh my God, like what's going on here, right? Like, why is Earth conquered, or something along those lines, right? Then it continues on into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, where it's basically like 3 parts of the same story. That Doctor Strange covers his part of the story, which may or may not deal with Kang directly. We may even see instances where he comes across universes, or he and Peter do, where like Kang has already conquered that universe, or we see what it looks like after Kang conquers the universe and basically leaves it in ruins, or at the very least that Earth, something along those lines. We also get that story told from the perspective of Loki in Loki season 2, when he's doing his thing, which is basically happening at the exact same time as Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness. And then we get Ant-Man 3 Quantumania, which looks like it actually deals directly with Kang himself, whereas Doctor Strange and Loki are kind of beating around the bush and dealing a little bit with Kang, but more on like the side skirmishes. That Ant-Man 3 is Kang head on, and then it ends however it is that it ends. But let me know what you guys think about that. I'm really curious, because I feel like there's a strong possibility this could be the case. It sounds like something the MCU would do, right? A more condensed version of what we saw in the Infinity Saga, where instead of getting like glimpses of the Infinity Stones here and glimpses of the Infinity Stones there, and some post-credit scene where Thanos grabs a gauntlet and says, fine, I'll do it myself, or something along those lines, that it's a more condensed version of that, but we see more of those threads across differing projects that are happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But let me know what you guys think. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.